There's a moment in every Sigma male's life when the silence he once wore as armor becomes the sound of transformation. For years, he's been the observer, the quiet one in the background, watching the noise of the world with a calm that others could never understand. People mistake that calm for weakness, thinking he's too detached to care, too emotionless to react. But what they don't realize is that the Sigma sees everything. Every lie. Every manipulation. Every fake smile. And the more he sees, the quieter he becomes. Until one day, he snaps. But when a Sigma male snaps, it doesn't look like what people expect. There's no yelling, no tantrum, no chaos. It's a silence so heavy it feels like the world just stopped spinning. It's a look in his eyes that says, "I've had enough." Because when the Sigma finally snaps, it's not about losing control, it's about reclaiming it. He stops being the man everyone walked over and becomes the man no one dares to underestimate. This is what happens when a Sigma male finally snaps, a transformation so deep it turns pain into purpose, rejection into rebirth, and silence into power. 1. The breaking point. The breaking point doesn't come overnight. It's built slowly, through years of quiet endurance. The Sigma takes everything in, every insult disguised as a joke, every disappointment he never expressed, every fake relationship he tolerated out of patience. He tells himself he's fine. That he's too strong to be affected. But deep down, he knows something's wrong. He's carrying weight that doesn't belong to him, the world's expectations, people's emotional baggage, and his own suppressed potential. One night, it hits him. Maybe it's after a betrayal, maybe after a quiet failure. He looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize himself. The eyes staring back aren't tired, they're empty. That's when he realizes he's reached his limit. He's been too understanding, too forgiving, too loyal to people who never gave him the same energy. And in that moment, something shifts. The Sigma doesn't explode, he evolves. He decides he's done playing by the rules of a world that never respected him. The breaking point isn't destruction, it's the start of rebirth. From that day forward, he stops trying to fit in and starts building his own world. 2. The withdrawal. After snapping, the Sigma doesn't lash out, he vanishes. Not to escape, but to rebuild. He cuts contact with the world that broke him. The phone stays silent, the social circle shrinks, and his presence fades like smoke in the wind. To outsiders, it looks like he's lost, but to him, it's freedom. He's no longer a puppet dancing to the noise of validation. The withdrawal is sacred, a spiritual cleansing where he confronts his own demons and starts reprogramming his mind. In solitude, he begins to understand the truth, that he was never meant to blend in. The silence that once felt like loneliness becomes his greatest teacher. He reflects on every mistake, every betrayal, every wasted moment. And he forgives himself. Slowly, the chaos inside him turns into calm focus. He reads, he trains, he plans. He turns pain into purpose and isolation into strength. When a Sigma disappears, the world assumes he's broken. But in reality, he's evolving, quietly, dangerously, and permanently. 3. The emotional reset. When the Sigma snaps, his emotions go through a complete reset. For too long, he's been the emotional sponge, absorbing people's moods, their problems, their chaos. But now, he detaches completely. He no longer lets anyone control his peace. The Sigma learns to master his emotions like a warrior controls his weapon, precise, intentional, and powerful. He doesn't suppress them, but he no longer lets them dictate his path. He starts to see emotion as energy. Anger becomes fuel for discipline. Pain becomes motivation. Loneliness becomes clarity. He no longer needs external comfort because he's learned to sit with himself in silence, and that silence, once unbearable, now feels like power. People who used to trigger him find no reaction. Manipulators lose their grip. The Sigma becomes emotionally untouchable. And that's when he becomes truly dangerous, not because he's cold, but because he's in complete control. The reset isn't numbness, it's mastery. 4. The identity rebuild. This is where the Sigma starts reconstructing his entire identity from the ground up. The old version, the one who cared too much, apologized too often, and explained himself endlessly, is gone. He doesn't even mourn that version. He outgrew him. The Sigma begins designing a new life based on his own terms. Every decision is deliberate, his daily routine, his habits, his body, his mindset. He starts training harder, thinking clearer, moving with purpose. People around him notice something different, the quiet confidence, the stillness in his eyes, the absence of desperation. That's because the Sigma no longer needs validation. He isn't looking to impress anyone or prove anything. His success becomes silent, his growth invisible, his power internal. He doesn't need to announce change because the results speak louder than words. The identity rebuild is the Sigma's resurrection, the birth of a version so grounded and self-assured that no external force can shake him again. 5. The ruthless focus. Once the Sigma rebuilds himself, he gains a kind of focus that feels almost ruthless. He stops wasting time on meaningless conversations, fake people, and short-term pleasures. Every ounce of energy goes into purpose, his craft, his mission, his future. The same intensity that once went into overthinking now fuels execution. He becomes obsessed with mastery. Every morning, he wakes up with a reason, every night, he goes to sleep one step closer to his vision. The world calls it obsession. He calls it clarity. He no longer chases motivation, he relies on discipline. The Sigma's focus becomes frightening because it's consistent. It doesn't fade when things get hard. He's tasted pain, rejection, and isolation, and now he's immune to distraction. He doesn't seek revenge through words, but through results. Each achievement becomes silent proof that his snapping point wasn't the end, it was the ignition. 6. The silent revenge. When a Sigma male finally snaps, revenge becomes silent. He doesn't argue, doesn't expose, and doesn't destroy. He simply disappears, and his silence becomes the loudest thing in the room. The people who once took advantage of his patience begin to feel the absence of his energy. They start to realize the strength he brought to their lives, the stability, the calm, the wisdom. But by the time they notice, he's long gone. The Sigma's revenge isn't fueled by anger, but by growth. He turns the pain into progress so visible it haunts those who wronged him. His revenge isn't "I'll get back at you." It's "You'll watch me rise, and there's nothing you can do about it." He doesn't post his success or seek applause, his actions become the message. The people who underestimated him now whisper his name, trying to understand how the man they once ignored became untouchable. The Sigma's silent revenge is poetic, it's success with no announcement, power with no noise. And the most painful part for his enemies? They can't even hate him for it, because deep down, they know they created the man who no longer needs them. 7. The elimination phase. After snapping, the Sigma male becomes ruthless with boundaries. He doesn't argue about who stays or goes, he simply eliminates. Anyone who drains his energy, doubts his vision, or disrespects his peace is removed without explanation. He doesn't need closure because he's learned that closure is just another way to stay attached to chaos. The elimination phase is surgical, cold, precise, necessary. He stops entertaining fake friendships, shallow conversations, and forced relationships. If you don't add value, you don't get access. Simple as that. This is the stage where the Sigma's circle becomes smaller but infinitely stronger. Every connection that remains is rooted in loyalty, mutual respect, and growth. The Sigma no longer feels guilty for outgrowing people, he understands that not everyone deserves to go where he's heading. The elimination phase isn't about arrogance, it's about alignment. It's realizing that peace costs less when you stop paying attention to nonsense. And once he cleans his environment, his mind becomes unstoppable. 8. The purpose awakening. When a Sigma finally snaps, something awakens inside him, something primal, powerful, and pure. It's the discovery of purpose. For years, he's drifted through life helping others, playing roles, trying to belong. But now, that fog clears. He begins to see the pattern. Every betrayal, every loss, every lonely night had a reason. The universe was preparing him for something greater. The Sigma's purpose doesn't come from ego or external validation, it comes from pain. He finds strength in everything that once broke him. His focus sharpens, and he channels all his energy into building something meaningful, a business, a mission, a legacy. He stops asking why me, and starts asking what now. That mindset shift is the birth of greatness. He realizes that his story was never about fitting in, it was about rising above. The Sigma male's purpose becomes his fuel, his obsession, and his armor. Once he finds it, he becomes unstoppable, not because he's stronger than others, but because he's found something worth suffering for. 9. The physical transformation. A Sigma's snap doesn't just change his mind, it changes his body. He starts treating his physical form like a temple, not an afterthought. Every rep in the gym becomes therapy, every run becomes release, every disciplined meal becomes a declaration of control. The pain that once lived in his heart now burns in his muscles. His transformation isn't about vanity, it's about reclaiming power. He looks in the mirror one day and sees the reflection of a man forged by discipline. The tired eyes are gone, replaced by fire. His posture straightens, his walk becomes heavier, his energy radiates dominance. People who once doubted him now sense the difference before he even speaks. The Sigma understands that the mind and body are mirrors, one cannot rise while the other decays. So he trains both relentlessly. His transformation isn't loud or shared online, it's personal, sacred. And when the world finally sees him again, they realize he didn't just heal, he evolved into something extraordinary. 10. The mastery of solitude. Solitude becomes the Sigma's superpower. What once felt like punishment now feels like peace. He learns to sit in silence and find clarity in stillness. While others run from loneliness, he embraces it. Solitude becomes the forge where he shapes his new identity. He reads more, thinks deeper, and works harder. In isolation, he discovers a level of focus and peace the world can't provide. He no longer fears being alone because he understands that solitude is where true growth happens. When you can sit with your thoughts without distraction, you meet the real version of yourself, and the Sigma has done exactly that. He's not avoiding people, he's protecting his energy. His mind becomes sharper, his emotions balanced, his presence magnetic. The mastery of solitude is what separates him from the rest, because while others need the crowd to feel alive, the Sigma needs only himself. He's learned that isolation doesn't weaken a man, it refines him. 11. The mental fortress. After snapping, the Sigma male begins building what few men ever master, a mental fortress. He realizes that the mind is the battlefield where most wars are lost. So, he fortifies it. Every negative thought, every doubt, every old fear, he faces them, one by one. He doesn't run from pain anymore, he studies it. He dissects his failures until they become lessons. He questions everything, his beliefs, his limits, even his identity, until only the truth remains. The Sigma's mind becomes his strongest weapon. He learns to control what he consumes, not just food or media, but thoughts. He filters out noise, gossip, and fear, focusing only on what builds him. Soon, his mental state becomes so disciplined that no insult, no betrayal, no setback can shake him. He doesn't need motivation from outside, he generates it from within. The Sigma male becomes a fortress, calm under pressure, unreactive to nonsense, immune to emotional manipulation. People wonder how he stays so composed while others crumble. The truth is simple, the Sigma has already been broken before. Now, he's unbreakable. 12. The spiritual shift. When a Sigma finally snaps, his entire view of life changes. He starts to see beyond the material, the money, the image, the noise. He realizes peace isn't found in possessions or validation, it's found in alignment with himself. The spiritual shift isn't religious, it's deeper. It's the moment he recognizes that his power doesn't come from outside forces, but from the balance between his mind, body, and soul. He starts practicing mindfulness, maybe meditation, maybe silence, maybe walking alone at night, whatever brings him clarity. He stops searching for happiness in chaos and starts creating it within. The Sigma learns that detachment is strength. He no longer reacts emotionally to life's ups and downs, he flows through them like water, adapting but never breaking. People mistake this peace for apathy, but it's the opposite, it's mastery. The spiritual shift turns him into a man who can't be controlled because he no longer depends on the world to feel alive. His energy becomes calm, but his presence becomes powerful, the kind of peace that intimidates the restless. 13. The social awakening. When a Sigma snaps, his perception of people changes forever. He starts to see through manipulation, fake kindness, and social games. He notices how most people live as actors, pretending to be happy, pretending to care, pretending to know their purpose. The Sigma, now detached, sees this illusion for what it is, a performance. And he refuses to participate. He no longer entertains surface-level interactions or seeks shallow approval. He values depth, real conversations, real intentions, real loyalty. When he speaks, it's with purpose. When he listens, it's with understanding. He no longer needs a crowd to feel relevant. In fact, he thrives in selective silence. He might have only 2 or 3 genuine people in his life, but that's enough. Because for the Sigma, quality always outweighs quantity. The social awakening strips away the fake layers society teaches men to wear, charm, popularity, performance, and replaces them with something raw, authenticity. The Sigma doesn't follow trends or blend into groups anymore. He stands alone, and in doing so, he stands taller than ever before. 14. The rise of self-discipline. Discipline becomes the Sigma's religion. After his snap, he stops waiting for the right moment. He realizes that emotion is fleeting, but consistency builds empires. Every day, he shows up, even when he's tired, unmotivated, or uninspired. His discipline isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. He doesn't chase motivation, he builds momentum. The Sigma learns to control his impulses, the urge to procrastinate, to complain, to take shortcuts. He knows that self-control is the highest form of power. And that's what separates him from the ordinary man. While others talk about goals, the Sigma acts. While others dream, he executes. His routine becomes sacred: early mornings, focused work, intentional rest. He treats his time like gold because he's seen how easily it can be wasted. This discipline bleeds into every area of his life: fitness, finances, focus. People call him obsessed, but he knows obsession is just what discipline looks like to the lazy. His self-discipline becomes his identity: quiet, relentless, and unstoppable. 15. The rebirth of confidence. Confidence for the Sigma doesn't come from approval, it comes from alignment. After snapping, he no longer measures his worth by opinions, attention, or results. His confidence is built on self-trust, the knowledge that he can handle anything. He's failed, been betrayed, and rebuilt himself from ashes. That kind of man doesn't need validation. He is validation. The Sigma's confidence is different from arrogance. It's not loud or attention-seeking, it's silent, calm, and unshakable. When he enters a room, people feel it, not because he demands attention, but because he doesn't. He knows who he is and what he stands for. His energy says, "I don't need to prove myself, I already did that in private." And that's what makes him magnetic. He doesn't chase, whether it's success, women, or respect. It all naturally gravitates toward him because he operates from self-worth, not need. The Sigma's rebirth of confidence is the most dangerous transformation of all. It's the point where the man who once questioned himself becomes the man others quietly admire, fear, and try to understand. 16. The emotional armor. After snapping, the Sigma male develops something few men ever achieve: emotional armor. He's no longer fragile to the opinions of others or vulnerable to manipulation. He feels deeply but reacts strategically. Every emotion passes through the filter of logic before it touches his heart. The Sigma understands that emotions are signals, not instructions. So instead of being controlled by them, he uses them as data. This armor doesn't make him heartless, it makes him efficient. He no longer wastes energy explaining, arguing, or proving himself. He's seen enough to know that most people don't want truth, they want comfort. And the Sigma doesn't serve comfort anymore. When people test his patience, he doesn't fight back, he simply withdraws. When they try to guilt trip him, he remains calm. His silence becomes his defense, and his boundaries become his weapon. Over time, his peace becomes unshakable. No insult, rejection, or failure can pierce his emotional armor because he's built it through experience. He's learned that the strongest man is not the one who never feels pain, it's the one who feels it fully, understands it completely, and still moves forward without breaking. 17. The detachment from the world. One of the final stages of the Sigma's snapping point is detachment, not from life, but from illusion. He stops measuring success by society's fake metrics, likes, money, status, validation. He sees how the world manipulates men into chasing things that mean nothing. He detaches from the need to compete, to compare, to impress. His satisfaction now comes from mastery, not applause. He simplifies his life. He focuses only on what matters, his growth, his peace, his mission. The noise of the world fades because he no longer lets it enter his mind. He no longer seeks entertainment from distraction or validation from others. He finds beauty in minimalism, fewer things, fewer people, fewer problems. This detachment doesn't make him antisocial, it makes him free. The Sigma learns that true freedom isn't doing what you want, it's needing nothing from anyone. That's when he truly transcends the game. He's no longer playing by society's rules because he's too busy building his own. And in this detachment, he finds ultimate control, not over others, but over himself. 18. The creation phase. Once the Sigma has detached from the noise, he enters the creation phase. This is where he channels all his discipline, pain, and focus into building something that will outlast him. It could be a business, an art form, a body of work, or a legacy, but whatever it is, it carries his energy. The Sigma no longer talks about dreams, he executes them. He works in silence, knowing that results are the only proof he needs. During this phase, he's in flow, pure, relentless, creative flow. Every day he wakes up with intention, not emotion. He's driven not by greed, but by purpose. His mission becomes bigger than himself. He understands that legacy isn't what you leave for people, it's what you leave in people. So he builds something timeless, something meaningful. The Sigma's creation phase is his masterpiece, born from solitude and sharpened by discipline. When the world finally sees what he's built, they call it success. But he calls it therapy. Because what others see as achievement, he knows was his healing process all along. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. Your support means a lot.